Welcome to the Check-In Podcast. I'm your host, Camryn Joi. And if those of you who are new to the Check-In Podcast, this is a podcast geared towards young adults and teens, where we talk about the everyday trials, tribulations, successes, triumphs, and everything in between in our lives. As you already know, the theme for this season is self-care. And today I want to talk about changing your environment. The title of this episode is Change of Scenery, and we'll be talking about how changing your environment can ultimately change yourself for the better. Today, I'm joined by Michael Davis, a friend for a minute, and somebody I'm inspired by creatively, professionally, and everything in between. Michael, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's crazy being on the check-in. So today, essentially, like what you were saying is true. Like I also am someone that I'm inspired by what you've been doing. I love the rewind, and I love all your stuff that you do, like super creative. I love this podcast, the idea of it. I had a podcast too, and I just didn't stay with it. And you doing the thing.
It's hard.
It's hard work, bro. It's such hard work to do this. So yeah, like let's get into it. Like, what are some questions? Actually, some questions about everything.
So the first question I ask every guest is, if you could use one word to describe your week, what would that word be? Now I know we're at the beginning of the week, so maybe you could summarize. You could give me a word to describe your past week, or a word to describe what you want this week to be.
One word. I'd say the one word would be focused. Yeah.
Why you said that?
So my last week, I used a combination of last week and now.
Okay.
So last week, my whole entire thing was focused on right now transitioning career-wise and different type of stuff and projects, and focusing on different creative projects I'm working on, and also focusing on just getting from one place to another place. Like I was in New York, then I was in Philly, and then I was in DC. Like it's like
you went down the coast.
Yeah, just going on the coast, and and it's all for the mindset of getting a job and meeting people, networking, and just staying focused on that. Today just came from an interview, changed my clothes, came to record. So focus. Yeah,
focus. I like that. I feel like that's a really good word. I feel like that's kind of like my same word too. Cause and I won't even say like for the week. I would say like for the month. Cause like at the time of recording, this is November, but I plan to release a podcast in December, and this kind of like just a non-negotiables month. Like everything that I've been putting off, everything that I've been making excuses for why I can't finish up, whatever, that's not happening. I have to get this stuff done. Like at the end of the day, and this is like the kind of like the time of year where I get my second win. Anyways, I always get like a sense of, I would say like my two biggest points of the year where I get like a win, a creative win to like do things is like April, March, that time, which I count as my new year. And then like November leading towards the end of the year. Cause I want to be able to have like some things like set in stone. So
interesting. April, March is your new year.
Yes. My new year cannot be January. Please.
That's different. I never heard that one. I mean, this month, I think like past couple months, it's super focused. But this week for sure, I mean, I just been trying to make sure I keep the momentum.
Yeah.
Right. Like I went to Culture Con. I went to this thing called Adweek House. Went to some other networking events, and so it's just like, sometimes when you're trying to like really go somewhere with this stuff, you also have to like create a way that you can make this sustainable.
Yep.
So it's like I've had to create a thing where like there's certain people I just hit up every Tuesday, and I hit up every Wednesday, because it's like, and it's not to be ingenuine, but it's just that like literally it's so hard to like stay on top of everything all the time. But for me, it's like trying to stay focused on that, because like that's how I'm gonna get to where I'm trying to get to. Okay,
I'm glad you said those things, because they're gonna lead into some questions I have to ask you. But before we get into like the nitty gritty questions, I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions. I just need one word answers.
Okay.
So the first question is, city or country?
City.
Does changing your environment change your life?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you succeed in your hometown?
Depends.
Should everyone move from home in their lives?
Yeah.
Do you think that your work environment affects your productivity?
Yes.
Night or day?
Night.
Do you feel connected to yourself?
Yes.
Is there a limit on discovering yourself?
I think so.
What has more impact, your environment or your mindset?
Mindset.
Solo travel or group travel?
I think group.
Okay. Does change of scenery cure burnout?
Yeah.
Have you ever made a minor change in your environment that led to a major change in your life?
I don't know.
Okay. As a creative, is a new environment key to inspiration?
Yeah.
Mountains or coast?
Mountains.
Should your environment reflect your personality?
No.
Vacation or expat?
Expat.
Is routine vital to success?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are my rapid fire questions. Okay, so I want to talk about, let's talk about, is routine vital to success? Because one thing I know about you, I'm not sure everybody else knows about you, is that you told me that you are an insomniac.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, when you're talking about like routine and like staying on top of things, I'm trying to figure out, how does like your insomnia like play a role in that?
I would say it's weird, right? So it's just for like transparency, like I work for 2 different companies, right? So, but that work has to get done in the day.
Okay.
The things I'm really passionate on, like my personal projects, like my series, like the marketing mix,
Right.
those are things I work on at night.
Okay.
And so a lot of times what happens is I'll really lock in and like I'll do all this other work. But when it comes to like editing, writing, even recording, I like to do it at night, because at nighttime it's like this peace.
Okay.
It's like a peaceful feeling that there is at night, where nothing else is happening. Everyone else is sleeping. No one is messaging me. No one is liking anything. It's like I'm literally alone, you know? So I sort of like that. So that's sort of, I think, insomnia has, it's like, it's a negative though. It can be a negative, but it can be a positive.
What's the negative about it?
The negative is if you feed it too much. I've seen where in the past, like, not that I'm tired, right? I can function. I'm functioning right now off of like less sleep than probably another person. But I think that there's like, when it comes to being creative, you also need your brain to rest.
Yeah.
So like, I've seen moments where when I was working in an office setting, that coming up with ideas was taking me a little longer because I wasn't sleeping well.
Right.
You know, so sleeping, earlier, and even just having a better sleep pattern, definitely benefited me in being able to be creative faster. I still am creative. I don't think creativity is a natural thing. I think some people are like, they have these things, but that's due to nurture more than anything. But it's like, I was able to sort of reach for the creativity faster, and my creative reflexes were sharper when I do have a better sleep. But I will say I have produced great things even with little sleep. So
okay,
it's
so
weird.
Do you have a sleep routine currently, or is it still?
It's really like try to be asleep before 2:00.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, because I'm the person that can stay up, like just stay up.
Oh, I can too.
And the 2 a.m. like I've been trying to get myself to go to sleep before 1 a.m. Because also like there is a beauty in like working at night when like nothing is like going on, but I also feel like there's like a beauty in like just starting your day early. I feel like I have more momentum. Like I would like to be able to train my body to have the momentum in the morning rather than the wind at night.
And I mean, I think it comes from also just like college life. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
definitely.
my college lifestyle, it's a normal thing. I mean, when I was in college, I studied graphic design as a minor. And so like the graphic design students and everything, we were like in the building until 1:30. And
same with engineering.
that's like a very difficult thing to try to like wean yourself off of.
Yeah.
So because you did create good work
Mm-hmm.
at those times of the night. So I think that's one of the things. Like, it's I do want to be a morning person,
Mm-hmm.
being able to do that, but I'm never gonna be a. I know for a fact, and I will use never. I will not be a 4 a.m. guy. Like,
Yeah,
work
no.
out at 4 a.m.
Mm-mm.
No, I've always said that that's crazy. So but I do want to get better at going to sleep at like 12, 1.
Yeah.
But I am a person that I couldn't be in a flow state, because I think working at night,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you that weird flow state feeling where you're like,
It does.
you look around, it's 4 a.m. You're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
sun is coming up.
Yeah.
Whoa, let me go to sleep.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I just watched the Quincy Jones documentary on Netflix. Great documentary, by the way. But he was talking about how he always gets his artists to record between like 10 p.m. and like 3 a.m. And he was like, that's like kind of like when they produce their best work.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when they're hungriest for it, because they want to go to bed, or they want to finish things up. And then he was just talking about like just creativity, how it kind of like thrives at night. And I thought that was so interesting, because I'm like, I'm trying to wean myself off of like thinking like that, and here goes one of the greatest producers, composers, whatever of all time, giving me the exact opposite advice.
Because I think it's one of those things where people say, like, sleeping at night it's like, sleep is so important. It's one of the most important things, right? And I think something has to give, if depending on what type of person you want to be. Like, that's why I can't ever do something like 75 hard. Like, it's one of those things where I don't do 75 hard because I know I'm not going to sleep 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I have to make it sustainable for myself.
You could do a 75 hard, and you could, for those of you guys who don't know what 75 hard is, 75 hard is like this challenge that I would say like kind of rose in social media recently, where like for 75 days you go hard on like a certain number of habits. The typical habits are like get 8 hours of sleep, work out twice a day, read 10 pages of a book,
drink a gallon of water,
and then like dedicate yourself to a creative hobby. So that's what 75 hard is. But you were saying you can't do 75 hard because
there's like the side of it where it's like, I think not, because most people would say that you need to sleep early and wake up early to do those other things. But like, I think sometimes you can be flipped. Like,
yeah,
it depends on what your life is looking like right now. Like, if you are working a 9 to 5, then that makes sense that you need to be asleep at a certain time so that you can still function at a certain rate. But if you're like a contract person who's like a freelancer, like your hours are different. Like, you can go to sleep at 4 and probably wake up at 9, or wake up at 10
and still
do
the work I gotta
do. So that's sort of like, I don't know if I meet those rules, is what I mean. I could definitely do it.
Yeah.
But it's like with the certain like rules that are out there. But it's just like, it's a tough thing figuring out what the balance is. And so yeah, being an insomniac it's a curse, and it's also a blessing at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about routine. And you've also mentioned like different environments that kind of like influence this routine that you have. Have you found any specific environments that you thrive in the most?
I think like, in like what way? You mean like when it comes to like creating things, or just like just in general, thrive in general?
Both. Let's start with where you thrive in general, and then let's start with an environment that you thrive in creatively.
So creatively, I think I thrive well when I'm like in my own apartment, and I'm just like doing my thing. Like,
so your own space.
My own space. Like, no one's watching. Right? So it's like, people don't know that when it comes to like making the videos I make, I have like 30 takes.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, sometimes like I'm there like cursing out myself, or I'm there like, I need that time by myself, essentially, to be able to sort of like, what are the words I want to do? Even though I've written down the script, I'm like, I don't like how that sounds, right? But I get the ability
once you say it, it's different.
I get the ability to like play around, and I get to be in my own space instead of like when I'm at work, or if I'm like around other people. But I do think also I do thrive well like thinking and brainstorming with groups of people.
Okay.
Like, I think people that are in different like mediums. Like, I like being around people who are writers, and being around people who are editors, things like that, because then I get to be the marketer. And so like,
Okay, so
yeah.
like you mentioned a good point. Like when you're a creative and you're kind of like operating in a solo environment, you kind of have to wear many hats.
Many hats.
But when you're in a, and I think also like to your point, I think a lot of creatives have this misconception that they do work better like alone.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like out of like what's actually good for them. It's just like out of necessity.
Necessity, yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally you're doing it because of necessity. But I think as a creative person, collaboration is like the key to succeeding and also getting better at things. Because I think for me, I'm a person that I had to get better at editing my videos.
Definitely.
But my videos are never going to be better than a video editor's. If I gave a person that's an actual videography, major and a videographer, they're gonna cook way differently than I'm gonna edit. And if I was to give them, brand strategy, this and that, they would probably not do as well as me, just off the fact that we have different things that we're good at.
Your job is your job.
Yeah. So it's like I like when we're able to then sit there creatively and I'm able to, hey, here's an idea. Is that doable? Yeah, we could do that, and we just bounce off each other. So I like those things, being in those spaces where everyone is just like collaborating. I do thrive off of that. Yeah.
Creatively. And then personally.
Personally, I think social environments.
Social environments. Okay.
Yeah.
Really, you what's the word I'm looking for? To me, you come off as a person that's like really good at like being by themselves.
It's funny.
Like,
that's
and that's maybe
that.
because like most of our interactions have just happened virtually since I've met you. But that's like the vibe you give me. And you don't give me like antisocial or anything like that, but you give me like
introverted.
A little bit, maybe introverted.
That's so funny.
You're the opposite.
If you knew, my girlfriend would laugh.
Really?
She would laugh.
You're super extroverted?
I'm an extrovert.
Oh wow.
I'm what people, how they say ambiverts don't really exist. I think COVID turned me into an ambivert.
But before that, you were extroverted.
Yeah. Like I was a person that had tons of friends, always in groups of friends, always, not life of the party, but like person that likes to be around people. So it's like when it comes to like, I think the only time I felt introverted was at Culture Con.
Because there was so many people?
There's so many people. It was like me and 3,500 other creatives. So it's like...
That's exciting, though.
It was exciting, but it was also nerve-wracking. Yeah. So it's like... But other than that, But once I got to the like... Oh, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm the type of person that will turn around and talk to a stranger. I talk to strangers all the time. And like, when I'm in New York on the subway, I talk to random people. Like
me too.
Yeah, I'm an extrovert to a degree, but I'm also, I think I mellowed out during the pandemic and got more comfortable being by myself.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of the pandemic, where were you during the pandemic? You were still in school?
Yeah.
Were you at home or were you on campus?
I was on campus on my own apartment. I got my own apartment. Yeah, during the pandemic.
Okay. So my question is, how has moving impacted your creative growth and like professional development?
So I would say moving, what it helped me with was being able to like, it's like there's a purpose to this. So like, stay focused because you're moving for a reason. Right. So it's like, moved to Michigan. I was in Michigan for a year and a half, working at a university, and like that was something that I did for the intent of growing and being able to go somewhere bigger or go somewhere else, right? So it's like, for me, moving, even though I moved back to where I was sort of familiar with, it made me look at, okay, what are the professional opportunities out here? Like, when I moved there, I was a part of the Chamber of Commerce, part of Rotary, a part of like all these different things that I wasn't a part of before when I was, when I was past living in Michigan. Yeah. So it's like figuring out what is there I can gain from this as a professional, who are the people I can meet that I actually vibe with. So that's another thing. I'm an extrovert, but I'm also selective in like my networking. Yeah. So I'm not a person who just likes to go to networking events just to like meet people. That just feels useless, right? I want to like vibe. Like we could actually have real conversation compared to just professional like, do you have a job at your company? You know, like,
Yeah.
no. But more just like, I want to be able to like have a great conversation with them that down the line they're like, hey, are you looking for anything?
Mm-hmm.
That they actually come to reach for me. But that's not even the goal with it. It's just, you know, if I could bounce an idea off of you, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
Right. So that is sort of what made me want to like move. And I think moving also expands your like view of the world. Like, you know,
You've moved a lot though, because the audience doesn't know, but you went to a boarding school.
Yeah.
And then you went to college away from home.
Yeah.
And then you moved
Back home.
back home.
And then I moved back to Michigan for work.
Back to Michigan. And then now you're back home?
Yeah, I'm back home.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably be moving here. Like,
soon.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where moving to like boarding school, I think, really made me comfortable with the idea that like it's fine to go away.
Got you.
Right? I'm from a small town that's like from the Poconos, and it's a place that is great in the sense of like, as a young black kid, I saw a lot of people who like looked like me who were successful. We live about 2 hours from New York City. I had the opportunity to go to New York all the time and get to see what there is there, right? But if you stay there, I truly believe if you stay there, you get so comfortable and content.
Yeah.
To the point where you aren't willing to see anything else. And
willing or like scared?
I think willing.
Okay.
I know a lot of people there who, you know, I've talked about, hey, like, yo, you should go to like Pittsburgh, which is like 5 hours from us, you know, and a lot of times they're like,
in the same state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pennsylvania's a big state. It's 8 hours long.
Like across?
Across. Yeah, it's 8 hours long. It's a big state. People forget. It's Lake Erie is in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a big state. So, but it's like one of those things where, you know, like, hey, go 5 hours away from home. See like what there is out there, because that's a city that if you never go now, you probably won't go later.
Yeah.
All right, and it's a whole different culture there. Like, there's a whole different like vibe there than Philadelphia. They're two different types of places. It's a whole different culture there than DC. It's a whole, like, it's just explore those things. And I think seeing all those things and being around all those things helped me like get better as a creative and also just as a person. Just my worldview. And I mean, then going to academy, I got to travel the world, so that gave me the ability to see things.
Where did you travel when you were in academy?
I went to, first I went to DR, then I went to Korea, and then I went to China, and then I went to India and Brazil. You know, going to Korea also was different too, because I mean, getting to just see like, there's so much creativity that's just in the culture, right? Going somewhere where there is historical sites within a modern city. You know, a lot of times in America, a lot of our historical sites are outside.
Yeah.
We build outside of the city.
Or in an old city.
Or in an old city, you know. So we don't keep all those things there. But they have, like, the original gate of South Korea. It's just there. So that's, like, one of those things. Or even going to, like, the old town and going to, like, someone, like I got to go to Confucius's house. And that's, like, crazy. Like,
that is crazy.
That's a crazy thing. So it's just like one of those things, and then like got to go to India and see stuff that was. I went to a temple that was.
You went to India too?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I went to India and I got to see a temple that was built around the same time King David was alive. Like, you know, so that's like crazy that's still standing, and like people are still going in and out of it and aren't afraid of anything falling. Like that, and just shows how, like. I think, like, for me, a big thing is, like, how big the world is, how small you are. And that's, like, something that I really appreciate about going and traveling places, and then going to Brazil and seeing culture. Like, I just got the opportunity to see a lot of culture.
How many countries have you been to?
I mean, I went to a lot of those countries in high school, so it was, like, after that, Mexico, I think. I haven't traveled much after high school, but went to Mexico, and so 7?
Those are 7 big ones, though.
Yeah.
India, Korea, China, Brazil.
Yeah.
Those are big ones.
Yeah, that was nice. It was really nice seeing that and realizing how big Brazil is. I don't think people understand.
My mom used to live in Brazil.
It is insanely large.
Huge. Humongous. Like, it's the biggest country in South America. Also, the like outside of Africa,
The
the
largest
biggest,
population of black people.
largest population of black people. My granddad, he was in the Navy, but he was also a diplomat. And so my mom did high school in Brazil. And so she did in Brasilia, the capital.
Uh-huh.
And then this is like a weird thing, but the first when I started at the World Bank, my desk mate, the person next to me, I met her and I found out that she's Brazilian from the same city that my mom used to go to, and they went to the same high school.
Wow.
And like it was just like completely like wow, like that's
The world is so small.
it, like so small and so big.
What's that called? 7 degrees of separation?
Separation,
Yeah. It's so small.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
so small. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, travel and changing your scenery. That's another thing. Like, why I say to people that if you're home, I got the opportunity to go to this academy, and that's like a privilege, right? But like, if you don't have that privilege of going somewhere where you can travel the world on a cheaper, like, because you went to other countries at your school too.
Yeah, I did too.
That was like, but we traveled for way less than we would travel now alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's like, while you still have the ability to, not saying you need to go and live in another state, but go see what's in another state.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you don't know, a lot of people don't leave their hometown. A lot of people don't leave where they're at, and sometimes you might meet people who are more willing to also give you a shot
Yeah.
than the people that are around
And
you.
you.
Yeah.
That is so true. I feel like I experience that every time I go to New York. Because I go to New York a lot of time for like creative things, like concerts, not expos, but what's it called? Concerts, conventions, stuff like that. And I meet a ton of people who is just like, if we was in the same city, like right now, I feel like this is a great opportunity because like I feel like we talk about things all the time like virtually, but I'm like, when you told me you were in the city, I was like, oh, we definitely got to sit down. And I feel like that too, like when I go like to New York and like I meet people and like it's just like, oh, if I had a little bit more time here, if I had met you like on the Monday that I was here instead of the Thursday that I'm leaving,
Bro.
like it would have been.
Bro, like, meeting people, I say New York, and that's why I tell people, like, why do you like New York so much? It's because there's an insane amount of connectivity, right?
Yes.
And in the sense of, I went to CultureCon, and at CultureCon, I was in line with someone who was connected to me already on LinkedIn. So they followed me because they've seen the pitch decks I make, and we were connected, but we didn't even know each other. We happened to be in line together. And she was like, hey, I work for Adweek, and I'm covering the event. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, that's dope. And she was like, oh, like, if you're interested in stuff like this, we have a free 2-day thing that's happening on Monday and Tuesday. I'll send you the link. I went to Adweek. I met the VP of, like, a bunch of different ad agencies. I met a bunch of different people who work at different spaces. I met the people who worked on Brat Summer. I met the people who run Nutter Butters TikTok.
Oh wow.
Like, that was like, but literally because I was in the city,
yes.
I had the opportunity of meeting people, and then also I didn't have to go far for this next event. It was still in the city. So it's like even so, like, another thing, I went to Athlos, and when I went to Athlos,
Oh, you did, and I didn't even know that was like a thing. I was like, oh wow.
When I went to Athlos, I was able to meet, like, I literally was walking into the event, and the founders of an agency that I really love the work that they do, that I really want to get into, they were all walking in, and literally I had the opportunity to, like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, we're connected on LinkedIn and stuff, but like, they didn't really know who I am, but we got to talk, and then we were able to have a follow-up meeting, and now we're like, cool. But it's like, that doesn't happen everywhere.
It doesn't. It does not.
Yeah.
And that's why, like you said, like, that's why I be in New York so much. I'd be like I be in New York a lot of times for pleasure, and then like the professional creative side like ends up getting a chance to shine. But the next time I go, I really want to go like on business.
Yeah.
And I think with the podcast coming out and stuff like that, I'll have like a lot more of something to show rather than like.
I mean, even if you have like something small, people are still like.
Yeah.
They still, like, the simple fact of starting a podcast is just hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, even if, I've heard people be like, wow, you started a podcast? How? Like, some people don't even know what it takes to start one,
It takes a lot. It takes a lot of research. And I think with me starting my podcast, I started it during the pandemic. And so I didn't really have, like, any, like, external pressures of, like, a time clock. Because everything was, like, still for a moment.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, also helped me because, like, when people come to me and asked me how to start a podcast, which I'm gonna start charging consulting fees, by the way.
You should.
No, definitely. Like as soon as my website goes up, it'll be on there. But like, I think like people like they think it's just like so quick and so easy, and it's just like part of the reason why I even stopped was because like that routine and just being consistent. Like for me to wear all the hats, it was just like consistent burnout. We'll try to get everything out and keep track of analytics and do all this stuff. And then I met somebody who actually is my assistant now, and she started like getting my podcast page like revamped and everything like that. But it was with old content, and so she kind of like, I think also like meeting people who kind of are invested in you, whether it's invested in you because you're paying them or whether it's invested in you because they actually see something in you. I think that also helps like light a fire under your ass to like get it going. Because if it wasn't for her, I probably would not have released it again this year. And then if I didn't release it this year, I would have just been like, all right, like I've been procrastinating too long. Obviously this is not it. Let me not. So.
Oh yeah, I hit that point with mine. I mean, there was just like, me and my co-host, we both were. It was the whole point of my podcast was just for us to be like young college students, like chatting about things that are happening in the world. And my goal at that point in time in college was to work at Complex. Like, it was like, man, I want to be the next Speedy. But then I was like, nah. I mean, that's for me. I knew that like that's just probably not the way to go, because like it was something that ended up becoming like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll record. Maybe next week. So it's like, for me, it was just like I had too many things I was trying to do, right? So it was like, let me do the podcast to the professionals. You know, maybe one day I'll probably want to do that. I'm currently thinking about YouTube. Someone was hitting me up about like, you should make longer form videos about your pitches, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. But just that's a whole process. It is. That's the thing people forget. Like it's tiring editing. Like, it's
very tiring. Like after a certain point, like you're looking at it and it all looks the same. You're like, okay, now I gotta take a break. Give my eyes a break, my ears a break. Yeah. Because if I don't, I'll end up like seeing the same thing over again. I won't see the progress or the improvement that I've been making.
Yeah, that's facts. So it's like, yeah, but it's a whole thing. So it's like, at the end of the day, I'm glad that you're still doing it, because like it's a thing that, just a simple fact, even if your podcast was like this is gonna look good, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are people out there that they start off worse.
Yeah,
you just gotta keep.
I started off worse.
You just gotta keep putting it out. You know, and once you keep putting it out and you get a flow with it, community will build, and as community builds, outreach will build, like engagement will build, and revenue and people and eyes and opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Like, you met Issa Rae.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now you know her to a degree.
Yeah. Like, will she remember me? I don't know. But I also know a bunch of people who do know her, like, professionally, personally. Like, and I know those people professionally, personally. So it's really 1 degree of separation, and not really even 1 degree no more, because I met her. But, okay. So, moving on. I kind of want to talk about, like, first of all, I didn't know like you had been to that many places. So this was actually a good not even episode. Obviously, it's a good episode. But like these were like great questions, because I learned like even more about you than I thought I already knew. But speaking of like just you changing your environment so often and being so comfortable with you changing your environments, this past year, where have you been? You've been just back at home, or you've been in Michigan and at home?
Michigan at home.
Okay.
I moved back in August.
Okay. What is one thing that you feel like you've learned about yourself this past year, from January to now?
I think, okay, so I'd say I tend to think about a lot of things, like in the sense of like not overthink, but I'm been trying lately to be, you know, to say things in the sense of the positive.
Okay.
Right? So like, oh, I'm gonna get that job, or I'm gonna like do this, I'm gonna kill it in this. But I think in the past I've had a lot of things where I would say if, maybe. So I think that's what I learned about myself, and now I'm trying to curve that habit to be more so saying like, yeah, like if these are the goals I want, that I am that guy, right? So if I have to believe that, like I am that guy. So I think that's what I've learned in this last year, that like I have those skills to be what I want to be. It's just now I just gotta really believe in it, and when I go in certain spaces, really move with that similar mindset.
So you said earlier when I was asking the rapid fire questions that mindset matters more than environment. Do you feel like you've always thought like that, or do you feel like you said, you learned this new thing about yourself this year? Do you feel like now you believe that mindset is more
I think I had a
important?
mix of both.
Okay.
But why I say that is because I used to think, oh, if I move to this place, opportunities will come.
Okay, got you.
That's not how that works.
Got
right?
you.
It's you could move to LA and never become a film star.
True.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people did it. A lot of people thought they were going to become big. Just never happened because they probably also, the mindset that they had about it was because if. So for me, it's like, I don't want to say if anymore about anything. It's like, nah, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to have an agency. It's just when.
Yeah.
When this happens, it'll happen because I have to believe that the people who I'm looking at are our mentors who have their own agencies and they have their own things and they're making great money and they're working with great companies. There's not much different than me and them other than experience. That's it. And that's sort of like, I think my mindset, like, and it's not to even sound cocky or to be like overconfident, but it's literally just like, I can't, you don't become like you are an outlier if you constantly think if.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's sort of my, like, I think mindset changed since the year. Yeah.
What small change has made a big difference?
Yeah, I think that one, and I think also just, one is like being aggressive, like in the sense of, people don't understand, like, LinkedIn, for me, this is just for anyone if you're trying to get a job. A lot of people right now are like without jobs, and the market is hard within this creative space as well. A big thing for me is people will be like, oh, I messaged this person, I emailed them. Bro, people got contact info on their LinkedIn.
Right.
You email them, you can hit them up, but I will email their assistant. Like, I will literally message their assistant, befriend the assistant, because the assistant is your access, is your gateway, right? And someone else told me that recently too, who was who I had like a informational with. They were like, yeah, like your gatekeeper of all important people is the administrative assistant, because they know everything. And then another thing I got more aggressive with is I might DM you, but I'm gonna also comment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna comment on a page like, hey, like I sent you a connection, but I also sent you a message, like I would love to just chat. Like I got an interview, I didn't get the job, but I got an interview with Foot Locker because of that, like Foot Locker Corporate. And it was because I was like on that. Or also just hit people up that you know you well, and they are in the same field, or they work at reputable companies, and just be like, yo, can you be my reference? Thanks. Like,
I think there's like just like a pushback on being aggressive, like in this day and age, for whatever reason. I do not know why. And I mean that because, like, people will know that they are a fan of something or that they admire something, and for whatever reason just hold back. They won't tell the person. They won't express that. They won't even pursue that to see like how they can, like,
you don't want to seem corny. Everyone doesn't want to seem corny. It's weird.
But like, what is corny? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think it's one of those things where you just gotta like understand that there is like, it's just one of those things where everyone wants to just seem cool. Like it's weird. It's like, it's not that it's corny to like reach out to people and be professional, but I think a lot of people are afraid of looking like a fan, if that makes any sense.
But I mean, if you are a fan, like,
if you are a fan, but I'm talking about, to people, right? Like there's also the imposter syndrome that some people suffer with, and I'd say I was a person like that too, where I did suffer with that, because there was a point in time when like certain jobs, I'm like, man, like, can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Am I professional enough as a person to do that?
And then you get into those jobs and you're like, oh, I can.
Oh, I can. Oh, okay. And then like, it grows your confidence. So I'd say in the last year, it helped me grow my confidence as a professional and understanding, oh, I am going to be like that guy because I can actually do this. It's like, even though you had a little bit of like doubts, you still got to believe in it. So I think it's just like feeling like the feeling of being corny is like something that people fear so much. It's weird. But I think that those people, if you feel that way, you'll sort of always be in a certain predicament.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you will not go further if you're afraid of hitting up somebody because you don't want to seem like a fan. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you dropped some good gems and nuggets on this episode. And so, like, I kind of just want to close it off by asking you just one more thing. And this one is a specific advice one. But it's, what advice would you give to someone who feels stuck creatively or even professionally but can't physically relocate? You mentioned in this episode that physical relocation, especially to Michigan, after you graduated, like really helped you not only with your professional career, but you mentioned, your confidence just now, your fearlessness, your aggressiveness towards pursuing bigger and better opportunities. But what advice would you give somebody what advice would you give to somebody who can't physically relocate, but they do have a desire to grow and expand professionally and creatively?
Okay. So I would say find collectives. Like there are co-op groups that are sometimes around in certain cities, depending on where you might live. Go on Eventbrite. See if there are any creative conferences or any creative just meetups that are happening in your city or within the 50-mile radius of you. If you can drive there, if you can take the train there, and go. Go to join the what's it called? Join the business of what's it called? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'm blanking on the name, but it's the.
If you remember it, I can write it on the video.
Okay, but like join the join business groups that are around here, right? And Chamber of Commerce, yeah. Join your Chamber of Commerce. Go to a lot of Chamber of Commerce. They will have what it's called like youth or young professional hangs, and you get to meet different people who are just in different fields. And that can also help you understand what are the career options you might have. A lot of people don't realize how vast you can go.
The field is, yeah.
Your field is, or just some fact you might have studied this thing. You might have studied writing, but like you might say journal. I know someone who they start off in journalism, and they work now as a marketer, and they just got hired as like the head of like business strategies at their agency, and like that's not the course that you might have thought you would take as a English major. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things where, look at what there is to offer there. Join some online groups as well. Like there's this group I think called Build Up. And they do stuff in New York where it's basically like a place where people go and they pitch their ideas that they are currently like projects that they're currently working on, and then if you're interested in it, you can help them out. Like, hey, I have a startup that I'm trying to start, and we want to like create board games, something like that. And they're like, oh, well, I'm a graphic designer. Oh, I'm a this and that. I'm a package designer. I can help. So it's like you get to also do that.
Cool.
And I'd also say figure out who are the creative people that you know. Like, who are the other creatives around you that probably are working on things by themselves, and try to meet up with them periodically and have like a work sesh together on a project, and then ask them what they think about your thing. Because I think a lot of people, when you leave school, you miss critique, right? So a big thing for me, I think, as a graphic designer, I got a ton of critique when I was in school. But now, if I make something, really getting critiqued by a lot of people who are the audience, which is good. I do like when the consumer is like, that sucks. I'm like, oh, okay, so I didn't really make it the way that you intended. But I know for like artists, artists are a little different when it comes to critique compared to designers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like a lot of times there's a thing where you now are creating in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's probably better for you to now try to get opinions from your photography friend.
Yeah.
Does this look well? Like,
Mm-hmm.
does this look good? Like, did I do this well? And then try to see what your like web design friend thinks. Try to see, like all these types of things. So I think just if you can't go somewhere and live there, try to figure out what there is in your neighborhood, and also buy a bus ticket and go to something like go to like one big event that's affordable. Like go to a culture con, go to a ad color, go to a film festival, go to something like that. Because you never know, you might meet somebody there who you didn't know could be such a valuable connection to you. Yeah.
That's true. That's good advice, y'all. Hey. But I'm just gonna give you an opportunity to like plug yourself. I feel like you did earlier, but people might have missed it. But where can we find you? Like LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, anything else?
TikTok is my TikTok is struggling, but I make short form content about marketing, and generally right now I have a series called The Marketing Mix where I talk about everything from marketing strategies that big brands and even small brands are doing that I think are really cool. And then I also talk about things that I think that big brands and small brands probably should do to better reach their audiences. And I also give advice to people about things that they can do, say if you're starting your own brand, or if you want to start your own clothing line, if you want to start, things like that. So that's what we talk about. And sometimes I just talk about how dope certain sneakers are. Where you can find me is on Instagram, just like Mike, just like _ Mike. And then TikTok, that's the same.
Okay.
And LinkedIn, Michael Davis on there. Yeah. So that's what I do. So if you're ever looking for any like brand strategy help or graphic design help, hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Perfect. And heavy on the graphic design consult, because I consulted him for my website logo, and it was a very good, 60-minute call?
Yeah.
It was one of those two, but it was very good, very informative. Helped me not to choose a graphic designer and just design that shit myself. So
yeah, sometimes you don't need a designer.
Sometimes for certain things. But thank you for being on the episode. I'm so happy we got to meet up in person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the last time we met in person. Maybe like
probably 5 years, 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a long time. But I'm glad to have you on the Check-In Podcast. Check-In Podcast meets Marketing Mix, and just checking in, y'all. And then also, if you guys want to find this episode, you can find this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere else that you can stream podcasts or anything like that. You can find us on Instagram at the Check-In Pod 1, and you can find us on YouTube at the Check-In Podcast as well. My name is Camryn Joi. You have tuned into the Check-In Podcast, and now we are tuning out. Peace.